Hello again, I am Jim Bob. Welcome back to Big Bud Farm. And you can see that our forestry area is starting to show some signs of life here. We've got these little tufts of grass now starting to show through, where I've put them in the road area and also up and down through the trees themselves. The trees have also hit their first growth stage. They are still saplings at this point, so I can walk straight through them. They still don't have any clipping yet. But they will obviously get bigger as more time progresses. I have also added some new equipment to the farm. So we talked about this, I think, in a previous episode, or I may have done this and forgotten to mention it, but I have added in a black sheep modded Massey Ferguson mower. So this will be used on the grass field that we created. If I open up the map, this grass field that I've created just up here. So if I turn on grass and go to growth, here we go. You can see it's not quite fully grown yet, but this is the area that I created. This is obviously the reset point, and the vehicles will reset around about just here where the cursor is. But I've turned this into a nice workable grass field here. And let me just turn that grass off again. There we go. On top of that, I've also planted some canola on our fields 3 and 5. They are actually in the final stage of growth right now. So one more stage and they'll be ready to harvest. I've also done a lot of contract work as well. So I've just recently, in fact just before starting this episode, I've just finished harvesting this field here, field 4. Did a big soybean harvest on there. Got paid quite a lot of money for that. Now, if you remember from the Big Bud episode 6 extra video that I did, where I ran out of fuel while I was harvesting, I did that job using, taking on a contract job that offered me a 45-foot header. Now, in previous videos, and I don't think I've done it in this series, but I have mentioned this in other series, changing the equipment will obviously change the amount of money that you get offered. And I can prove this in this series as well. When I did this job in episode 6, in the extra video after episode 6, I got paid $262,000, I think it was, somewhere around that, 268, something like that, and I got another 80,000 or so in a time bonus, and that was using the CR1090 and the 45-foot draper header that I was offered. Now, when I just did this job, just before starting filming this episode, I used the smaller of the two large, the mid-sized case combine, the middle of the three. So I'll pull up the store. It was this case combine here, the 7130, and they offered me that combine with the 35-foot header that goes with it, which is where is it? This one here. The 3020 35-foot header. That was the combination of equipment that I was offered. So I accepted the job on that premise, having already placed my New Holland 45-foot draper header that I own on the side of the field. And as soon as that job started, I simply drove the combine over to the edge of the field where I'd placed the header, hooked up to my own 45-foot header, which is an extra 10-foot working width, and did the job with the 45-foot header on the smaller harvester. So the reason I did this is because being offered equipment of a smaller working width meant that the amount of time that I was offered increased, and the amount of money that I was offered for the job increased as well, because I'm doing a job with smaller equipment. It's going to take longer to do. However, by using the 45-foot draper header, I actually did the job in a little over 7 hours, as opposed to, it was about 7 hours 10, something like that, 7 hours 10 minutes. It took me 7.5 hours the previous time I did it, but obviously I ran out of fuel, which added in 15 minutes or so of faffing around trying to figure out what to do. So the time it took me was about the same as the previous time, because again I'm using a 45-foot header, but this time round I got paid a huge amount of money. I got paid something like 350,000 for the job and another 150 in a time bonus. So by doing it, taking a job where it was offering me smaller equipment and a bigger payout, I got the job done faster than I was supposed to, because I'm doing an extra 10 feet of harvesting per pass on that field, and I'm doing it, on a much bigger, I'm doing it with a much bigger base payout as well. So I gained around 340,000, 350,000 in total when I did this job in episode 6 extra. And for the job that I've just finished, using the same size header but being offered a smaller one for the equipment, I got paid around 500,000. So I've made an extra 150,000 simply by swapping the equipment around a little bit and being a little bit clever. So there are ways that you can do that. If you own larger equipment, when it comes to combining, if you get offered a job on a good sized field, try and find the smallest combine that you'll be offered, and have the header from your larger combine waiting at the side of the field, so that when you start the job, just hook up to your own larger header. You'll get the job done quicker. You'll be offered more base money because the job is using smaller equipment, so it's going to take you longer in theory. And you'll get a faster time bonus because you'll do it ahead of schedule. So the payout on the time bonus will be bigger as well. So there's a little tip for you guys there. In terms of other new equipment, we have also added in the Hatzenbischler Terminator CD unit with the accompanying seed tank. This is what I use to actually plant my canola crop. I bought this in, and it saved me having to cultivate the fields, although I had already cultivated the fields. This will save me having to cultivate the fields at the end of this harvest when I use it again. And on top of that, it will also fertilize as well as seeding as well. So it'll save me having to do a stage of fertilization. And going forward, when we move on to field 1, I will run 2 of these at the same time on field 1, just to help cut down on the amount of time it'll take to seed the field. So now here we are at the shop. It's time to spend some of this money that we've earned. So we're going to move into animals today, and we're going to move into sheep as the first stop. So we want to have, because it's a big farm, we want to have a big number of animals. So we have the truck, and I'm either going to get this or this. I haven't quite decided yet. This is obviously a mod. This can hold, as you can see, 48 sheep, 38 pigs, 20 cows, so quite a lot. This holds less than that, and I'm not sure on the exact numbers, I can't remember, but I think it's somewhere around about 25 to 30 sheep, maybe a little bit more than that. But it does hold somewhere kind of in the middle between that and obviously the tiny little Betty-Max from Joskin. I think I'm actually going to go with this one. I don't want to spend too much money getting everything set up, but we'll buy this. So main colour is obviously for the framework of the trailer. We're going to go with white. Stick with that white theme that we're running on our trucks, and we'll run white rims as well. So we'll buy that, and we'll bring our truck over and collect that in just a moment. We're also going to need a water trailer, and because we're going to be running a lot of animals, we're going to need a lot of water. So we're going to buy a Q-Big liner from the Joskin transport trailer pack that Black Sheep released, a 32,000 litre capacity. We've got the choice of standard colour scheme or colour, which is basically green body. I prefer the standard look, so we'll go with that. And because we're going to have hopefully quite a lot of sheep, they're going to make a lot of mess. Too much to be constantly having to go up there and clean, so we're going to buy a Lely Juno as well. We'll run standard colour, and we'll put a beacon on there just for a little bit of showmanship. So let's buy one of those. Now, we don't need to worry about food mixers or anything like that. I say we're running sheep, so we just need grass. Now, we have that mower that we just acquired that we haven't used yet. We will definitely be using that, but an easy way to deal with the food situation is to bale the grass and then just drop the bales straight into the food trough, because sheep will take either hay or grass, and rather than having large quantities of stored grass somewhere or having to hay up all that grass by tethering it and then rowing it back up and then sticking it in a hay loft somewhere, much easier to just bale it up and store the bales near the food trough. Then I can just pick the bales up as I need them and drop them straight into the food trough. So let's get ourselves a baler. Now I'm going to go with the baler that's with the Massey pack that's just come out, simply because the power requirements are quite low and it's also cheap as well. I mean, if we look at this one here, it's 50,000 to buy, has a 4,000 litre capacity, only needs 85 horsepower to power it, and it only costs $45 a day. Now, if we compare that with the single axle big baler of again from Black Sheep Modding, here it's $140 a day, needs 120 horsepower, and still only works to a 4,000 bale limit. And then if we go to the original in-game ones, these are expensive as well. This Coon one here from the DLC, $140 a day. Maintenance needs 185 horsepower to run. The in-game one, the big baler here, $190 a day. Again, needs 185 horsepower. So our little mowing unit isn't the most powerful thing. So we're going to go with this. Just simply because it's small, it's cheap, it's affordable. It'll hook up nicely to our unit that we're going to be using to do our mowing. And it's not going to break the bank in daily maintenance either. And we're going to get one of these quadra packs for stacking, because we want to be able to stack in nice, easy to manage bundles of 4. So we'll buy one of those as well. So already we've burnt through a couple of $100,000, quite a lot of money. We also are going to need a bale trailer. So we're going to buy one of these, and again we want the main colour to be white. Wheel setup will go with wide tyres, and do we want the ladders? Yeah, we'll take the ladders on it as well. So let's buy a bale trailer. There we go, so that's another $58,000. Our money is going down very, very quickly. But this is kind of what we expected. So I think that's everything we need now. So let's have a look at our equipment. See exactly what we've got. So we've got our animal transport trailer. We've got our water trailer. We've got the Lely Juno to keep the feed area clean. We've got our baler and bale stacker. We've got our bale trailer. What else do we need? Well, we need something to actually pick up those bales and load them on the trailer. We also are going to need something to be able to load pallets as well. Now, we do have the little 200 series down by the logging plant, but I want to keep that for the logging. So let's get ourselves a telehandler. So we've got a few choices. We've got the Liebherr one, we've got the JCB, we've got the Manitou, and do I have it installed? No, I don't. There is also a New Holland modded one as well, but I'm not going to bother with that. There is also the sort of very small telehandler kind of front loader that you can buy in here. The Kramer, I'm not a big fan of that. I find it unstable and not that easy to use. I'm not a massive fan of it. I prefer to use an actual proper telehandler. So do I go with JCB or do I go with Manitou? That is the question. This obviously has an articulating body. These ones have fixed bodies and four-wheel steering. So these are a little bit more manoeuvrable in terms of some situations. This is obviously just a really nice JCB. I think I'm going to go with the JCB because I haven't used one of these in a long, long time. So let's buy the JCB. And now we need something as a pallet fork, and we've got lots of options to choose from. We also need a bale fork, so we're going to get the Kotech claws because they just work so well when picking up stacks of 4. And in terms of a pallet fork, I'm going to try one of these later on, but to start with, we might just go with one of those. In fact, no, let's go with this. And we want it for a telehandler, so let's buy one of those as well. So there we go. We have lots of equipment that we need to sort of get into position, and we need to get our sheep as well. So we need to figure out exactly where we're going to store the equipment. Now I'm thinking of putting in a shed somewhere up here. Let's see. If we go to the different sheds, let's have a look at the BSM sheds. I'm thinking maybe a through shed like this is going to be the best option. But the question is where to put it. You see, it's quite tight around here. So, I mean, I could theoretically put it here, or maybe here. There's our wool area just there. I'm thinking maybe if I put the shed here. Now we could have, is this an open-ended one? I think it is. Yeah. So we've got an open-ended one there. We could also go with a close-ended one, like this. So different choices, and I think if we go with a close-ended one like that and put it just there, we've got some room to maneuver around the sides. It still gives us a bit of a storage area, but I'm thinking maybe it'd be better to have it somewhere like that, perhaps. I don't know. I'm going to have to think exactly where I want this. I want somewhere where I can store the feed as well, so maybe this would be a better option, because I can store some equipment in one of these and I can store bales. But the thing is, as well, getting equipment out that way becomes a lot tougher because we have a much smaller turning area. So maybe we need just a smaller type of shed. So maybe, let's see what other sheds we can install. How big is... oh, that's way too big. And that's it. That's all the shed types that we have installed. So these aren't going to be the right size, really. But we could use one of those for bales, as a little bale shelter. Let's see. If we were to position one of these, say, there, how would that work? That actually looks pretty good, just there. So we can use that there, and we will store our bales in that area. Is that wonky? Got a horrible feeling I've just put that in a little bit wonky. That's not too bad. That's pretty straight. That's pretty square with the fencing. I'll take that. It just looks a bit wonky because of the way the ground is. So we've got somewhere that we can store our grass bales now that's covered up effectively. We still need somewhere for vehicles, but maybe we'll come back to that later. For now, we can just leave stuff parked up here. Maybe we'll put in a proper shelter area somewhere, a little bit somewhere else where we've got a bit more room to play about with. Now, we could deliver the sheep automatically just by using the dialogue box, but we've just bought an animal trailer, so we should use that really. So let's get our truck. Let's disconnect from everything, and let's go grab some sheep from the animal dealership and transport them all the way up to our sheep farm. So here we are at the animal dealership. Now, we've got our truck sort of primed and ready. But first things first, I want to get some bales done. And what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to mow this area in here. Because the grass that we've got growing on our field above the BGA isn't quite ready yet. So I'm going to come in here and I'm going to bale up this area here. We'll stack all the bales in there. And then we'll be ready to load up our feed trough just there. So we'll get all that done first. And then once that's done, then we'll bring the sheep up. So there's our nice little processional trail of equipment there, all connected together. This is going to be really handy as a mowing setup. You know, we'll get a nice 5 meter wide swath of grass that'll be fed into a single swath, which will go into the baler and into the stacker. So we'll get a nice stack of 4 bales, nice and easy for our telehandler to come and scoop up, store away, and then drop into the feed trough. And as we arrive at the sheep pasture, you can see the grass across the field there, not quite ready to be cut. That is going to be our primary source of grass going forward. Obviously, to start with, though, we're going to be using this. So let's get everything set up. So first off, let's select the baler. We need to unfold that, lower the feeder, unfold the packer, and then drop the header and turn on the header. So off we go. Now this isn't a workable grass field, this is just a bit of grass on some land. So in fact, this isn't actually grass. Ah, now that's interesting. I thought this was actually grass, but it's not. Look, we're barely getting anything at all. And what we are getting isn't being picked up. And why is that? Oh, it's because I haven't turned the baler on, that's why. There we go, baler is turned on, so now... There we go, so we're only getting little bits. But there's not really anything here to cut, which is a bit of a shame. Hopefully we'll get enough to at least get some bales, just to get us started, and then we can come back and we can cut the grass properly on our sort of meadowy pasture that we've created. So I'm going to keep whizzing up and down here. Hopefully we'll find little bits of grass that we can actually cut, but it looks as though this is mainly decorative. And yeah, look. It's only the sort of dried out grass that we are actually cutting. The stuff in the middle, that's just decoration. It's not work. That's not actual grass that we can cut. That's a bit of a shame. Well, let's see what we can do. See how much we can get. Well, we didn't get much. We got 1.5 bales. And that was it, around the edge of that sheep pen. But we have got field 2 here, which is just literally across the street from our sheep. We're going to mow this headland here, and this will give us a nice small number of bales that we can use, at least to get our sheep started and give them something to eat while we wait for the rest of our grass on our freshly created paddock to grow in and be ready to be mowed. So we're just coming up on our 3rd stack of bales. This will easily be enough to get us going. I'm going to try and start with 100 sheep. And we may actually need to take out a small loan just to be able to finish that off. It should cost us $4,000 a sheep. That'll cost us $400,000, and we only have $347,000 at the moment, so we will need to take out $55,000 in loans be able to pay for those sheep. But 12 bales should definitely be enough to get us started, and even have a little bit in reserve, I think. So here's our first load of sheep. We have 24 in the back. So 4 trips will net us 96 sheep, and I think we'll just go with 96 rather than 100 to save making an extra trip for just 4 sheep. I don't want to back them into there, do I? I want to back them into the loading gate just here. There we go. So let's unload our sheep. And there we go. We now have some sheep in our sheep pasture. So that is the first of 4 loads. Let's go get some more sheep. So here's our second load of sheep getting ready to go in. There we go. Back to the dealership for loads number 3 and 4. So here we are pulling in for our 4th and final load of animals now. Obviously, it's going to cost us 96,000 or so for another load of animals. More than we can afford. So let's see exactly how much it's going to cost us. 96,000. So we have 59. So obviously we need to supplement that a little bit. So let's take out a small loan. There we go. So 40,000 taken out. Now we can buy the last load of sheep, and we can go deliver those at the sheep farm. And then we can get the feed and the water out the way, and they will be completely set up to start making us some money, which is kind of what we need, because we've just spent an absolute fortune getting them set up. It may seem like a strange thing to do, to spend all that money when I'm trying to save up money to buy Field 1, but the truth of the matter is that even with a combined total of around about $1 million, still a long way short of being able to buy Field 1 as things currently stand. We have a little bit of crop in storage, but not a huge amount. We do have a harvest of canola that is almost ready. Just got that last stage of growth to go through before it's ready to be harvested. But the field is going to cost us around 2.7 million as things currently stand. And I am still working to bring that price down. So even if I got that price right down to 2.6, 2.5 and completed it, I'd still be $1.5 million short. So there's still a lot of work to go. Now obviously we're going to keep doing contract work, and we've got this lumber that's growing here that we can start making some money off of. And we also have our crops that we can sell, and on top of that we will have hopefully a nice large stockpile of wool for when a great demand hits. Now wool is a huge amount of money that you can make in this game. You can make an absolute fortune if you have a lot to sell and you get a great demand. So I've seen people selling a single bale trailer double stacked for over $1 million. So with the number of sheep that we have to get us started, they're going to breed reasonably quickly. So that's just going to speed up production. So by starting with just under 100 sheep, you know, they'll breed quickly. they'll start producing wool at a good rate. That rate will only ever get faster, and quite quickly as well. We've got plenty of grass that we can work to feed them. We've got free water, so we don't have to worry about paying to fill up their water troughs all the time. You know, we can get all that water right across the street for free. All the grass we need is free. So after the initial expenses, obviously we'll have to pay upkeep on these sheep, but they'll more than make their money back when it comes to selling large volumes of wool. And it's not just, you know, as a one-off. We're going to need that additional source of income going forward to pay for fields 2 and field 4 at a later stage as well. So very much a long-term strategy is to buy all these sheep. So let's see how many we've got. 96. It's not giving us any stats on productivity or anything like that yet because they have no water and they have no grass. So let's take care of that right now. So there we go. We are filling our water trailer up from this sort of pond type lake area that's right opposite our sheep pasture. It's all completely free. Now we do have a water point, and obviously we've got that big reservoir on our farm. If we open up the map, you'll see we've got that next to the chickens, we've got that big reservoir, and then just below that on the sort of dirt path inside the farm we have a water tower which is fed by that reservoir. We do have to pay to use that, which is why we're using this sort of free water source up here. At 32,000 litres, it gets quite pricey to fill one of these up when you have to pay for it. So we'll do it for free. And it's a nice short trip as well. We don't have to go very far. That's it, we're there already, look. So let's see just how thirsty 96 sheep are going to be. I reckon we'll probably use a good half the tank. Not even that. Not even that. I honestly thought they would take up a lot more water than that. There we go. So that's the water situation taken care of. Now let's take care of the food situation. So here we go. Here's the first of our stacks of bales. And how much food has that added in? That's almost filled them up already. So we don't even need to worry about adding any more bales. So let's speed time up just a touch. And that should now trigger the interactivity menu here. There we go. So we'll get our next animal in 9 hours and 40 minutes. They're reproducing every 10 hours right now. So that's a pretty healthy rate for the number of sheep that we have. Let's slow that back down again. So now we need to get the Juno up here so we can get that set up and keep our food trough nice and clean. So let's get the Juno set up and in place. It's only a small feed trough, so the angle doesn't need to be particularly huge on this. We'll set it to 750 and that should cover the entire trough. Now, somebody asked me when I was setting up the Juno on American Outback, somebody asked me if I was using a GPS mod. I'm not when I use this because there isn't one for consoles, but what they're referring to is this and that. Now, these are the control toggles that pop up and help you with positioning. So they show you the range of the pickup of the Juno, how far in front and to the side and behind that it will pick up grass or whatever it's trying to pick up off the floor. And these are done by using the indicator. So you hold down R1 and then if you press right on the D-pad, you pull up the sideways, and if you push left, you pull up the forward and backwards display. And that's all they are. So it's just controlled instead of using indicators or turn signals, it's done using the same control scheme. So R1 to hold down, and then either left or right on the D-pad to pull up either of those overlays, and then obviously just press again to turn it off. So let's get this started. Check our distance. And there we go, 750 should cover this absolutely perfectly. Spot on. So there we go. Our sheep are all set up. We have a large number of sheep to get us started. We're going to start making a lot of money, hopefully, from wool as the game goes on. Give us an extra option with our crops. And we have our Juno working away fervently in front of us there, keeping that feed area nice and clean. So that's it for this episode. Please do check out some of my other stuff as well. Obviously, yesterday was the first episode of the reboot of Massey Manor, episode 20, now on Old Stream using the old generation Massey Ferguson pack. Please do check that series out. It's going to be a very different style for the second half of the run compared to what it was back on Coldborough. Tomorrow we go back to American Outback for our weekly visit over to there. Thursday will be midweek Massey, so the second weekly episode of Old Stream of Massey Manor. Friday we'll be hitting back on Drummard Farm for some Fent Friday action on Fent Farm. And then we'll be back here on Big Bud Farm again on Saturday. So thanks all for watching. I am Jim Bob, and I will catch you back on Big Bud Farm on Saturday.